expansions.com, and this is the news video for April 12th, 2011. And you can tell from my shirt, what am I going to be talking about? Volcanoes. Well, it's not news to you, I know, but there's some things that is new going on in the volcanic world, and that's what you should be looking at right now. One of which is in central Iceland, and we know that last year Iceland had some issues with volcanoes and shut down a lot of the air traffic between Europe and North America. But now, a dormant volcano in the very central part of Iceland is showing deep rumbling underneath the earth there. And this is a volcano that has not erupted in recorded history. Now I realize that people have only been in Iceland since around the late 800s, so we're talking maybe 1,200 years of history. So at least in 1,200 years, this thing has not erupted, and geological evidence indicates that they have no clue when it ever erupted before. So this is something to be watched, and it is a caldera volcano, which means it is big. The interesting thing is, I contacted my friends in Iceland, and there's no news in Iceland about this. So that's a bit of a clue. When they're not telling the local population, they don't want to scare anybody, and so that's something we need to look at. Also, in the Philippines, 3 major volcanoes are showing signs of imminent eruption. That is a major factor if you consider what happened in Japan, and now there is a volcano going off in southern Japan, and then right here along the Pacific Rim, here's 3 more in the Philippines rumbling. Volcanoes are starting to come to life, and that's what I want to tell you about, because I might have mentioned in one of my books or DVDs that when I was working back in the Montauk Project and during my deprogramming process right afterwards, I was told, and this would have been in the late 80s, early 90s when I was doing my deprogramming, I was told that when I see the dormant or even extinct volcanoes of the world starting to rumble and erupt, that meant it was called a blowout. And what that meant was the reptilians in ancient times, after the Maria sunk, had buried themselves in stasis units, or buried underground containment areas where they were in stasis, so suspended animation. And they were buried under volcanoes because no one would go to look in that area under volcanoes. And so when that, they said, happens, when these volcanoes start to rumble and come to life when they should never be doing that, that means that the blowout is occurring and the reptilians are coming awake and going to be looking for taking back the surface. So when we add that all together with what I mentioned in my, or you'll be watching in my podcast about the comet Ellen coming in, about the New Madrid fault line coming back and roaring back to life, all of this is extremely important to keep in mind when you think about the reptilians. And also that areas in the South Pacific are rumbling. Remember, I mentioned to you once before that this area in the South Pacific near Australia is rising up as much as 15 feet per day. Everything's coming up. Whereas this part of Australia is going down. And we're seeing a lot of quakes occurring in the Indian Ocean, can cause tsunamis here in Western Australia and even Southern Australia. So you need to keep that in mind also. You're going to see a lot of the UFO information coming to light. We just saw yesterday on the news information released about the Roswell incident, where the government admitted in their documents of 3 aliens about 1 meter tall, 3 feet tall, that they found in the wreckage of this Roswell crash, and that the aliens do exist. This is coming out of US, UK, France, Russia, China. A lot of the countries that did UFO investigations are now releasing information saying, yes, aliens exist. So you put the whole picture together, comets, aliens, earthquakes, volcanoes, reptilians, all this together, what does it get? Staged alien invasion scenario, and possibly a real alien invasion scenario, which I'll be talking to you about in future broadcasts. So until then, this is Stewart Swerdlow for expansions.com.